Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi, GITTEN DAF Lamed Zayin. We are holding on Lamed Vav Amid Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. So we have learned that Hillel Hazokin was mesakin something called prusboil, which would prevent the Shemitah from affecting one's loan. So basically the creditor can still collect his loan after Shemitah if he goes ahead and establishes the prusboil by approaching the Bezdin and handing them over, so to speak, his loan, in which case he's no longer the debtor. Rather, Bezdin is collecting that loan, and therefore he will still retain the rights to his money. Now, why did they give it a name prusbol? My prusbol. Amar of Chizda, it stands for the following. Prois, Rashi says, prois means a takana, an enactment. For whom? For buli ubuti. So prusbol is like a joint word. Prois bule ubuti. Who are the bule and bute? Says the Gemara, bule, these are the ashirim, elu ashirim, wealthy people who lend their money. So it's a takana to protect the wealthy, who are the lenders, to allow them to maintain their funds. We find that bule refers to wealthy people, as the pasuk in the Teichacha of Vayikra says, "V'shabarti es goin uzechem." I will disrupt your pride, your honor. V'tani Rav Yosef, elu bulois Rabbi Yehuda. The prideful people; those are the wealthy people amongst the Yehuda territory in Eretz Yisrael. So we see that Rabbi Yosef, who translated the psukim, used the word bulois to indicate the wealthy people. Who are the bute? Elu ha'anim, poor people who need to borrow money. T'chsiv havet tavitenu. So havet tavitenu is in the parsha of tzedakah. You should lend money to poor people. So we see that tavitenu, which is similar to bute, refers to poor people, and that's the deeper meaning behind the word prusboil. It's a takon that the Chachamim established for the sake of protecting the wealthy and benefiting the poor. Now people will lend them money willingly, knowing that their funds are protected. Amalei Rava Lila Eiza. So Rava turned to a fellow who knew the foreign language, non-Lashon HaKodesh language, and he asked him, "My prusbol, in fact, what is the meaning of prusbol? Amalei Pursa de Milsa." It means a takana, a custom, a practice, enacted by the Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel, Yisoimen. One is meant to know that orphans who are ketanim, whose father left them behind some chayvais, some loans that others owed to them, ein tzrichen prusbol. They don't need to make a prusbol, to write up the prusbol document. You know why? The Rabban Gamliel obeys Dinah, because the leaders of every generation, and we're just picking an example, Rabban Gamliel and his Bezdin, who were around at that time, so they look after the Yisayimim. Avian shel Yisayimim. They're like the fathers of the Yisayimim, to look after them, to protect their interests. And it's as though the Bezdin is sort of administering all their business and their loans as well. In which case, their loans are already given over to Bezdin without any need for that formal transfer by way of a formal prusbol. Tanan Hasa. Here comes a chiddush. The Mishnah in Maseches Shvius tells us, "Ein koisfen prusbol ella ala karka." We only write a prusbol if, in fact, the borrower, the loiva, owns land. And Rashi explains, because that's the typical scenario. When would a person lend money to his friend? Only if he has recourse, if he has access to land, which he can collect on account of that loan being in default. That's your typical case. So you only lend to somebody who has some land to serve as a security against that loan. And since that's the common occurrence, that's the milsa de shchicha, likewise, when the Chachamim put forth this din of prusbul, like any other takana which is done in a milsa de shchicha, in a common setting, here as well, it was only provided for your common setting, which is when the leiva has karka. Now let's say the leiva does not own any land. Can the malva still make it a prusbul? There's a way out. Mizakeu b'seich sadeu kolshu. He does as follows. We do this today as well. When we make a prusbul, we are mizaka, a tiny, minute piece of land, to the leiva. So the leiva doesn't have his own, we give him. And then we can proceed with the prusbul practice. V'kama kolshu. How much is a drop? Really a drop? Yeah, even a really small piece of land, afilu kelach shel kruv, even a small piece of land which is perhaps only sufficient for the planting of, one stalk of a kruv, of cabbage or whatever. That's enough. And the question is, well, how can we use that as a guarantee for $1 million loan? The answer is, and Rashi explains, because we find this many times. We had this actually a few weeks ago. That you can even rely on a small piece of land for a large loan because you can collect it once and have it redeemed from you by the leiva, and then you can go collect it again and recollect and repossess until you're done collecting the entire loan. So theoretically, even a small piece of land can provide security for a large amount of loan, a large loan. So again, prusbul is only done when the leiva has some land to his name. If he doesn't have his own, we can just give it to him. Now, the question is, we know zachan la'adam shalei b'fanav, right? You can be mezakeh for a person. You can give him a gift even without him knowing about it. But here, how can you be mezakeh if is it to the benefit of the leiva? Actually, it's to his detriment, because it's enabling you to make a prusbul on his account. So how could you be mezakeh him? So some explain that as long as this actual act is good for him, you're giving him something. So even though it's ultimately not necessarily good for him, but this specific ma'as is good for him, you're giving him a gift, a piece of land. So you can apply the rule of zachan la'adam shalei b'fanav. Others explain that in the long run it's good for the leivim to have this system enacted, because this would encourage people to lend money and not be concerned about the shmita or canceling the loan, because they always know they have the option of actually granting a piece of land to the leiva. So in any case, this is the solution when a leiva doesn't own his own property. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, afilu hish'iloi makam letanur u'lekarayim. Kais von olav prusbul. Even if the malva doesn't actually give him a piece of land for keeps, even if he just loans him, he lends him, he gives him permission to use some property for placement of his oven, of his stove, that is considered having access to land and allows you to write the prusbul. And the Rishonim ask, well, if it's not his, then again the whole point is the land provides a security measure. It's something to fall back on account of default of that loan. But if he just has access to karka use, How's that providing? So the Ritva says because ultimately the Malva can make use of that land as well. So it's also worth money. So that's also something to fall back on. Says the Mar'ani, is that so? That even access to karka, even access to use of karka is sufficient. V'atani Hillel. This time Hillel is an Amoira, not a Tana. So he set forth a bryce which says like this: Ein kois from prosbol, ella al atzit nokav bilvad. You could only write a prosbol if the loive has at least an atzit nokav, a flower pot with a hole in it, which renders it mechuber lekarka, in which case halachically it's considered like a piece of land, and it qualifies. Nokov, only if it has a hole in, then it works. She'ein nokov lei, but otherwise, if it's just a closed up flower pot disconnected from the ground, it doesn't qualify, and the question is, am I lei? Why not? Fine, he has no actual ownership of the land, but he's been given access to the use of the karka. Look, the atzitz is sitting on someplace, so that should be enough according to your chiddush. That right of access is enough. Apparently, we are speaking the manachasichi. The flower pot is not actually sitting on the ground, but it's suspended on pegs. So he barely has any use there. He has use maybe of the actual spot where the peg is sitting on. That's not enough. That's not chashiv enough to be reckoned with. So if you actually own a piece of land, even a small piece of land, that's enough, like you said before. But access, right of use, that has to have some significance, some real value. Rav Ashi, when he wanted to write a prosbol for his loans, and the loiva had no karka, maknile, you know what he would give him? Gidma de dikla, a stump of a palm tree, because of a prosbol, and he used that for the prosbol. Rabbanon, the Chachamim Debei Rav Ashi, in the Beis Medrash of Rav Ashi, when they wanted to write a prosbol, they didn't bother writing it on paper. Rather, Masri Milayu Ladadi, he would just, he would walk over to 3 of his friends and transfer the loans without actually writing it down. So that verbal transfer is sufficient. Rabbi Yehuda, he didn't need to write a prosbol. Masar Milay L'Rav Chia bar Abba, he would give over verbally, say over the actual nusach, the text of the prosbol to Rav Chia bar Abba. Amar Le Tzrichna Midachrini, and he asked him, do I need anything more to allow me to collect the loan? Amar Le Tzrichas, there's no need for anything else. A verbal declaration is enough. Taner Rabban, Ein Loi Karka, suppose the borrower doesn't own his own property, which preempts the creditor from writing that prosbol. But the guarantor, the fellow who undersigned the loan, Yesh Loi Karka, he does have his own land. Koisvinol of prosbol, that is sufficient for prosbol. You know why? Because if the loiva defaults, where does the malva go? To the arev. So that karka provides a fallback security for the loan, and that's enough. What about loy villa arev einlan karka? Let's say the borrower and the arev had no karka, but v'lechayev loy. But there's another person who owes money to this borrower. So Levi borrowed money from Shimon, and Shimon borrowed money from Reuben. Reuben wants to make a prosbol, and Shimon has no karka, but Levi, who owes money to Shimon, who in turn owes money to Reuben, has karka. V'lechayev lo yesh li karka. Is that enough? Yes, because that also provides a backup for his loan, because he realized that Levi really owes the money to Reuben directly. Kaisvanol of prosbol, that suffices for prosbol writing. You know why? Kid the Rabbi Nassan, based on Rabbi Nassan's halacha, that tells us that Levi is really obligated directly to Reuben, his creditor's creditor. How do we know that if Reuben has a money claim on Shimon, so if Shimon borrowed from Reuben, and Shimon has the same claim on Levi. So Levi borrowed from Shimon, who borrowed from Reuben. How do we know we take the money directly from Levi straight to Reuben? So ultimately, Levi owes the money to Reuben. This is learned from a pasuk. A person borrows money and or steals money and refuses to repay, etc. So that's the pasuk that he actually has to pay back la'asher asham loy, to the one who the money belongs to. Pasuk doesn't say, give it back to the one you stole it from. The one who the money is owed to. And we learn from here at Drasha, the pasuk here is telling us that ultimately you have to give it back to the person on top of the pyramid. So if he stole from Shimon, who stole from Reuven, you owe it back to Reuven directly. It makes sense, right? Because Reuven has a claim on Shimon, who has a claim on you. So take it straight back to the first claimer. And therefore, if Levi has karka, even though Shimon doesn't, the fact that Levi ultimately owes his money to Reuven allows Reuven to write a prusbul on his loan to Shimon. Okay, Tanan Hassam, we're going to have many cases where, Shvius does affect the loan and Shvius does not affect the loan. We're going to see which is which. Tanan Hassam, let's go back to the Mishnah in Shvius. HaShvius Mishametes. Shvius affects what type of loans? Esa Mulva, right? Bein Bishtar, Bein Shalei Bishtar. Whether the loan is a documented loan or it's just a verbal, Milva Bal Peh, undocumented. The Gemara explains like this. Rav and Shmuel, they both explain, Da'amrit Havayu, you know what Bishtar means? Shtar sheyesh ba'achrayis nachasim. The Mishnah means a shtar which contains achrayis nachasim. That if the loiva fails to pay, the malva can collect his assets. And when the Mishnah says, bein bishtar bein shaloi bishtar, we don't mean without a document at all, without a shtar at all. Shaloi bishtar means it doesn't have the full power of shtar. She'ein bo achrayis nachasim. So even though there's a document, it's all recorded, but the malva was not empowered to go and collect his assets upon default. And that's what the Mishnah means when it says shalei b'shtar. So even though there's a document, even though there's a shtar, we call it shalei b'shtar because it doesn't have the full power of a shtar, which typically allows you to fall back on his properties. So in both shtar and shalei b'shtar, which according to Rabbi Shmuel mean with achrayis, without achrayis, allows you to put on a lien, doesn't allow you to have a lien. Either way, Shvius cancels that loan. Kol shkei mulva al peh, certainly if it's a verbal loan. Of course, you have nothing in your hands to be able to say that you're sort of controlling the loan, sort of in possession of that zuchus. No, you have to go and collect it, you have to go claim it. And that's what Shemitah is coming to cancel. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, they disagree. They learn the Mishnah differently. When we say the word bishtar, which is affected by Shemitah, shtar she'ein ba'achrayis nachas. It means a shtar which does not contain the ability to place a lien on the borrower's properties. And shalei bishtar means milva al peh, no shtar at all. But here comes a chiddush. Aval shtar sheyesh ba'achrayis nachasim. If the malva is in possession of a real shtar milva, which allows him to place a lien on the leiva's properties, in that case, Shemitah will not affect it. Einoi meshamit. Why? Explains Rashi. Rashi is off to the right here. Einoi meshamit. Dikigavoy dami, says Rashi. It's as if the loan has been collected. It's not like you're trying to collect an abstract chayv. It's right here in your hands. You have the upper hand. You're in possession. Look, you have a full legal document which empowers you, which enables you to go and place a lien on his properties, to collect on his properties. It's like it's in your pocket. Shemitah doesn't affect that. And we have a raya, Tanya, we have a raya from our Brisa, Kavasei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, that if it's a shtar with achrayis nachasim, it can pass right through Shemitah unaffected. Shtar choy mishamit. If you have an ordinary shtar choy without achrayis nachasim, without the ability to collect on his, on his karka, then Shemitah affects it because you still have to collect on it, and Shemitah removes that ability, cancels that power. But v'im yesh b'achrayis nachasim, Now you're in charge. Eloi Meshamet, it's unaffected by Shemitah. Tanya Idach. We have another brisa. Sieim loy sada achas balva asay. Let's say the loiva who borrowed the money with a shtar. So in the shtar, he pinpointed, he identified, this field is going to be designated as potential, payment for that loan. So Sia means he sort of delineated it. It's from here to here. He pinpointed, he specified which field is committed for the loan. Einu mishamet, in this case, if you see him like Einu mishamet, the Shemitah does not affect it. Again, because we employ the concept of kigavoy dami. It's as if it was already collected. It's already sort of halfway in the Malva's possession. It's he's empowered to just pick up and take that thing. Not only that, even if he wasn't that specific, even if he writes inside the shtar, Kol nechasai achroin va'arvoin lach. All my properties, all my assets are responsible, are serving like an arev, like a guarantor for this loan. Once again, we apply the same concept. Edim mishamet, it's unaffected by Shemitah. There's a clear raya to Rabbi Yehuda and Rish Lakish that this type of arrangement preempts that Shemitah cancellation. There was a story where Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, pasken differently than his own shita. Kreve de Rav Asi. Rav Asi had a relative, Havaliyahu Shtara, who was in possession of a shtar chayv on a loan that he had given. Davakasabei achrayis nachasim, which contains achrayis. Osel kamei de Rav Asi. So he comes to Rav Asi, wanting to know whether he's protected. Kam Shemitah. Amarle Meshamit or Yene Meshamit. Is it affected by Shemitah or not? Amarle Yene Meshamit. He says, you're totally protected because you have a full shtar with achrayis. It's kugavui domi. It's as though it was collected. Shavke. So he left Rav Asi and he went to ask another Rav. V'asal kamei de Rabbi Yehuda. He wanted to double check. He went to Rabbi Yehuda. Amarle, he tells him, well, Meshamit, guess what? You will be affected by Shemitah. Now, word got back to Rabbi Asi about what Rabbi Yehuda just said, that even this type of arrangement is not insulated from Shemitah. Also, Rabbi Asi, come to Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Asi approaches Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei Meshamit, Yena Meshamit. Could I clarify this with you? Affected by Shemitah or not? Amalei Meshamit. Says Rabbi Yehuda, yes, it is affected by Shemitah. Asks Rabbi Asi, V'hamarhu da'amar Yena Meshamit. Haven't you yourself told us that a shtar with achrayis nachasim is protected from Shemitah? Amalei, Rabbi Yehuda responds. We had this a couple of weeks ago. Just because because we think that it is so. It makes sense, but to actually carry it out, to allow the Malva to collect on it, Nasa Masa, we're going to actually carry it out, Lamasa, we're going to execute it, La Halacha Lamaisa. That's already a stretch to do that. And I don't have the confidence, in this svara, in this din, to actually implement it. Amalei, Rabbi Asi continued further to Rabbi. He says, "V'atanika v'asei demar." Well, we have a brisa which supports you. Amalei, he says, "Well, I know about the brisa, but dilma hi k'beis shamayu. Maybe that brisa is on a totally different track. Hahi beis shamayi. It's following shitas beis shamayi. The amri shtar ha'emed ligavais k'gavai dami. They hold, everywhere. Chalatera kula. That anytime you have a shtar which is empowering you to collect, it's as though you collected it. You're considered a muchzak. If there's any suffix involved, you get it. There's a whole discussion in Masechah Saita about it. And in that case, I can understand why he's protected from Shemitah, because it's as though he's in total possession of that debt. But that's Beis Shammai's shita. But according to the shita that disagrees with Beis Shammai, does not consider a shtar owner as as though he's in possession of the actual money, which is the accepted view, Shitas Beis Hillel. Who's to say that when it comes to Shemitah, we should look at it otherwise and protect them from the effect of Shemitah? Tanan Hasan. So once again, we have a Mishnah in Shvius. Hamalvas Chaveri Mois Ala Mashke. So Reuven lent money to Shimon and took a collateral, a mashke, to guarantee that loan. So now he's in total possession. He's totally in the driver's seat. He's controlling the loan. It's as though he collected it. Oh, this is the Pruzbul system. He transfers his debts to the Bezdin. You're collecting, not me. Ein Meshamtin. In both these cases, Shemitah does not cancel the loan. Explains the Gemara. I understand how that works. The Tafsil Beidin, because Bezdin are the ones that are collecting on his behalf, so to speak. So the pasuk which says "Lo yigos," don't run after your loiva, doesn't apply in this case because Bezdin is involved. And Rashi adds Hefker Bezdin Hefker, which we had yesterday. So that system we understand. Ela malva ala mashkein. However, just because he has a mashkein, that security, that collateral, my time, what does that protect him from Shemitah? Amar Rav Shemitah Tafasli, because the malva is holding on to the mashkein. He's no longer chasing after the loiva. Look, no repayment. Okay, I have it already. So lo yigos doesn't apply. Amar le'abayi el me'atav. That's the reasoning behind the halacha. Hilavo v'dar b'chatzer. Suppose the malva lent him money, and now it so happens that the malva is living in the chatzer of the loiva. So, what are you going to tell me? He's totally in charge. The toughest lay. So he's totally there. He has the air. He has the control of the chatzir. Are you going to tell me that the Shemitah doesn't affect him? Right? And the Rishonim explained, was speaking that the malva was actually permitted to go. The loiva allowed him to sit in the chatzir as a mashke, right? So, are you going to tell me that in this case the chayiv will not be affected by Shemitah because the mashke is sort of in control? Amar lei. So Rava says no. There's a distinction. There's a difference. It only works by items, by chafetzim, by mitatlan, not by karka. Amalei shani mashkin. And mashkin is very different. You know why? The kanadle mit Rabbi Yitzchak. When a malva takes possession of a mashkin, he has a certain level of ownership on that item. The kanadle, Rashi says 3 lines from the bottom. The kanadle le malva, it's sort of owned by the malva. In fact, vim avad chayev b'achar yusuf. The mashkin goes missing. Who's responsible? The malva. Says Rashi, Hilka kigavoi nami dami linyan shvius. So likewise, when it comes to the shvius issue, it's kigavoi dami. He's in possession of the money. He's in control of the loan, because the mashkin is already sort of partially his before even going and collecting that loan. Rabbi Yitzchak says the Gemara 2 lines from the bottom. How do I know this concept that a bal chayiv is totally responsible for the mashkin? Shanamar, when the pasuk instructs the bal chayiv to return the mashkin on occasion, the pillow when he needs it at night, etc. The pasuk praises the malva. Well, tzedakah. You know what? It's a great thing. It's a charity. It's tzedakah. It's a big mitzvah. When you return that item, for the loiva to use overnight, it's called tzedakah. Tzedakah. It's not mine. It's his. It belongs to him. Why are you giving me credit? If not for the malva owning the item, tzedakah minayin. Why are we praising him for tzedakah? It's not even his item. Oh, minayin. Mikan the bal chayiv shekoine mashkin. This tells us that the bal chayiv really becomes sort of an owner on that mashkin. And likewise, when it comes to, and that's why it's called tzedakah, because he's sort of being generous with it. And likewise, when it comes to the Shemitah issue, if you're malva ala mashkin, the fact that you have that item in your possession, which you partially own, which you're responsible for, as collateral, as security, then we say kegavo idami. It's as though you already collected that loan, and therefore you're unaffected by Shemitah. Tanan Asam. Okay, we go back to the Mishnah in Shvius again. Hamachzer chayv lechaveru b'Shvius. So suppose Shimon approaches Reuven, the Malva. After Shemitah, he comes back to him. He says, I want to pay back the loan. The Malva has to be erlich and tell the Loiva, look, I'm giving it up. As per the mitzvah HaTorah, it's all Hashem's money. That's what Hashem wants. But suppose the Loiva insists, take it anyway. Then certainly the Malva accepts it. No problem. Shnemar v'zeh dvar hashmita. We learn zeh dvar means dibur. There's an expression that has to be done. Words have to be said. Mishametani. That's enough. I am relinquishing. I'm no longer claiming it. You want to repay it? Thank you very much. Amarab v'talile. The Malva can even harass the Loiva after initially refusing the money and saying Mishametani. He can turn around and sort of make him very uncomfortable. Rashi learns he could physically force him, but other Rishonim learn just you can sort of stare at him and make him uncomfortable and Adam Arhachi until the Loiva gets wind and smartens up and actually offers the money back. Eisvi Abai asks a kasha on Rabbi, who says you can sort of pressure the Loiva into repaying it. Kishu Noisan Loi, the Brisa says that when the borrower offers the loan back to the Malva after Shemitah, you should not attribute it to the loan. You should tell him, it's really mine, because the Torah granted it to me, the Loiva. I'm giving it to you as a gift. You're a nice fellow, I want to give you a gift. So apparently the borrower, the lender can't force him, can't coerce him, can't pressure him. The Brisa seems to be describing a very nonchalant, easygoing conversation. So Rabbi says, no, the Brisa is not contradicting the halacha that I said. Yeah, you can be talile, you can hang him up, you can pressure him until he goes and he says these words. Until he says, I'm giving it to you as a gift. Abba Bar Marta, that was his name. To who? Abba Bar Nyumi. He had another name as well. Hava Masak be Rabba Zuzi. So Rabba had a monetary claim on him. He lent him money. So Rabba was the Malvi. I sin on B'Shvi. So the Loiva, Abba Bar Nyumi, brought him the money after Shemitah as repayment. Amar le Mishametani. So Rabba, in fulfillment of the mitzvah, says, Mishametani, I'm giving up, I'm relinquishing. Okay. He took him seriously. He took him literally. Sheklinu, he took the money. Va'azal, and he disappeared and he left. Asa Abaye. So Abaye comes along and he meets Rabba. Ashkechen, he meets him. Dava Otzav. He looked very sad. He lost all his money. Amalei Amay Otzav Mar. What's the matter? Why are you upset? Amalei. So Rabba relates to him the whole story. Hachav Amasa. This was the story. I lent money. He came back to me. He offered it to me. I refused and he disappeared. And he didn't insist that I take it, which seems to have been the norm, to insist that the Malva takes it anyway. Ozal Gabe. So Abaye approaches the person, Abba Bar Minyumi, Amalei, and he started asking him, Amtas Lezuzi Lamar, did you bring your money to Rabba? Amalei, and he says, sure. Amalei, so he asks him, my Amalei, so what did Rabba tell you when you offered him the money? Amalei, he says, well, he told me, Mishametani, I'm giving it up. Amalei, so Abaye continues, Va'amrslei, did you follow up by saying, Afal Pikain, I'm insisting anyways? I'm giving it to you anyways? Did you offer him that? Amalei, so the man says, no, I didn't. He says, he didn't want it, I left. Amalei, so Abaye continues, V'amrslei, if you would have just told him the words, Afal Pikain, I'm insisting that you take it, he would have taken it from you. He was waiting for that. He has his mitzvah, right, to sort of give up that claim. But you have your derech eretz, your requirement to go and offer it anyways. Hashtam miyas. So now at least I'm tunun elay. bring it to him, ve'emeli, and tell him the magic words, afal bikain. Right? And you're insisting that he takes it. Azlam tinunele, so this fellow followed orders. He approached Rabbi again, offered him the money. Va'amali, and he told him the words, afal bikain, I insist that you take it. And bingo, shaklinu minei, Rabbi took it. Amar, so Rabbi said, what a pity, Le'yava beidata, by Tzubim Rabbanim Yikara, this young Talmud Chacham, Tzubim Rabbanim, didn't have enough wisdom initially to follow through and do it properly. Amar b'dam Rav Nachman, Ne'eman Adam Leimar Prusbul Hayibiyadi. Interesting chiddush, a person, a malva, is ne'eman, he's trusted when he says, I already had a prusbul on this loan, v'avad mimeni, I lost it. So even though he can't produce a prusbul and it's after Shemitah, and the Levi wants to walk away with a loan, the malva is believed, is trusted when he says that I already had a prusbul and I simply misplaced my time. And why do we believe him in this case? Given that Kin Rabbanah prusbul, since the Rabbanah made a very easy, convenient takana of prusbul, lo yishavek et teira, a person would not forego that easy, permissible option of collecting a loan by making a simple prusbul, v'achli surah, and then take something inappropriate, something forbidden. Being that prusbul is so easy and convenient to do, what we trust him when he claims that he in fact made a prusbul. He also committed Rav. So in fact, when Bali Chayiv, lenders would come to Rav, and this was after Shemitah, when the Malva and the Levi would come to Rav, Amr Lei, so Rabbi would, before he would cancel the loan, the Levi would say, well, it's after Shemitah, and you claim you have a prusbul, show me the prusbul. So Rav would turn to the lender, Amr Lei midi prusbul hayelach v'avad. Did you have a prusbul? Perhaps misplaced it, and you can do that, even though you're sort of helping out the malva. This is an example of psach picha le'ileim. Who? The pasuk. It's not a pasuk, but actually the pasuk in Mishlei Lamed Aleph. So the pasuk speaks about opening the mouth of a mute person. In other words, get him to speak. Show him the way. Teach him the proper, arguments. Basically, since it was so evident and clear, the Chacham assumed that every malva has a prusbul. Rav had a right to actually encourage the malva, sort of approach the malva in this way and, advocate for him, to try to get him to relate to the fact that he had a prusbul and he lost it. Okay, Tanan. We have a Mishnah Mesachas Ksubos. V'chein ba'al chayiv shemoitzi shtar chayiv v'eini moy prusbul. Okay, so ba'al chayiv produces a loan document without a prusbul, and he claims that he had a prusbul and he lost it. Hara'elu le'paru, the Leva does not have to repay. How could Rav Nachman tell us that prusbul is an assumption? You don't have to prove the prusbul. Tanoi, you have a machlekes Tanoi. And Rav Nachman paskin like the Chachamim, who sided with the Malva. The Sani, you have a Braisa, Hamoitzer Shtar Chayiv Tzarech She'im a prusbul. In order to collect on your loan, you have to produce the prusbul. The Chachamim in it tzarech, there's no need, because a person is believed when he says he had one and he lost it. Okay, before we continue, let's recap the sugi of prusbul, which was a takana of Hillel HaZaken. Upon seeing that people were hesitant to lend money, come Shemitah, concerned about losing that money, the concept of prusbul is basically to ensure, to safeguard the funds of the malva, and also to benefit the borrowers who will now have access to credit. So it's a takana, a price, a takana for the buli and the buti, for the wealthy and the unwealthy. We have many examples, cases where, regardless of the prusbul, Shemitah would not affect the loan, such as in the case of the Yisayim, because Bezdin is sort of administering their loans. In the case of the Malva having a mashkoin, which is also tantamount to sort of holding on to the money. And we had a discussion regarding a shtar that has achrayas nechasim, machlekes miroim, whether that protects him from shmita. We also learned that the loiva has to have at least a drop of karka, or else we give him some karka, or else the arev would have karka, or the person who owes money to the loiva has karka. All these cases work. We learned the chiddush that the malva has to sort of negate the loan, but the loiva has to insist on him taking it. So each one does his chiyuv. Machlekes tanaim, whether the malva is trusted. If he says, I had a prusbol, but I can't find it. Says the Mishnah. Eved shenishba. So you have Eved Kanani, non-Jewish slave, owned by Israel, who was taken into captivity. Ufta'uhu. And other Israelim redeemed him from captivity. What is his status now? Does he revert to being an Eved, or does he go free? So it depends. Im l'shem Eved. If the ones who redeemed him intended on enslaving him, maintaining his Eved position, yishtabid. So yeah, he continues serving his master. Im l'shum ben chayr. If their purpose was to set him free, lo yishtabid, he no longer serves his master. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel ben Kach yishtabid. Whether their kavana was for work or for freedom, he goes back to work. But my askinon, what exactly occurred here? So this fellow was nishba, he was taken into captivity. Now, where was the owner? Or we're speaking that the other ones came along to redeem him prior to the owner relinquishing, giving up on him, being miyayish on him. So he's still a full-fledged owner. I haven't given up on the Eved. I was hoping to get him back. And you go and you redeem it. So the question on that is, so the Mishnah speaks about two things, right? If they redeemed him l'shum Eved, so it goes back to work. Okay, we understand, because the owner still owns him. But the second part of the Mishnah, l'shum ben chayr, if they intended on setting him free by redeeming him, amay lo yishtabed. Why does the Mishnah say he goes free? He's still owned by the original owner, who never was miyayish on him. Elo lachayush. Oh, apparently the owner already gave up on him. He never hoped. He never, thought to get him back. So the Mishnah says that if they come along and redeem him, intending on letting him free, fine, he goes free because there's no owner. But then the other part of the Mishnah is difficult to understand. L'shum Eved, if their intention was that he continues working by his owner, amay yishtabed. Why does he go back to work by the owner, who already was miyayish on him? He gave up on him. So it's sort of stuck in the middle. If it's this, then that's difficult. If it's that, then this is difficult. Amar Abayis, we have Abaye and Rava. Amar Abaye lo'im lefnei yush. We're speaking prior to yush. U'lushum Eved. If they were paid to him for the sake of avdos, yushtabed the Rabbi Rishon. So it goes back to the first owner, who's still the full-fledged owner. But l'shum ben chayrin, if they redeemed him for ben chayrin to let him go, in that case, the question was, why does he go free? He's still owned. No, lo yishtabed lo Rabbi Rishon, lo Rabbi Sheni. He is not bound to the original owner or to the new owner, so to speak, the one who redeemed him. You know why? Lo Rabbi Sheni lo. He's not bound to the new guy. Because he paid the money to let him go. He never intended on buying him from the captors. And the Rabbi Lisha Namiloi, what about going back to the first owner, who never gave him up? So why not? The concern is because, we want people to redeem the Avadim. And Eved Kanani is a partial Yisrael, so to speak. He has certain mitzvahs. And unless we let him go, as per the intention of the Redeemer, people will hesitate to redeem Avadim. I'm going to redeem him and you take him back for work? I want him to become a Yisrael. I want him, give him the opportunity to become a regular Yisrael, which happens when he goes free. So Dilma Mimni, there's a concern, perhaps people will refrain, hold back, and not redeem these Avadim. So the special Takanam, that he goes free. That is a Shitas Tanakam. Rabban Shimon, Ben Gamliel Eimer, he disagrees. Benkach, irrespective of the intention of the Redeemer, since we're speaking before the owner was miyayish, so technically, legally, he's still owned by the original owner. Yishtabed. he should go back to work. What happened to this concern of, Kasavar, he holds no concern. Just as people know there's a great mitzvah to redeem regular Yisraelim from captivity, Kach mitzvah liftes avadim, everybody knows it's just as great of a mitzvah to redeem avadim, who are also partial Yisraelim, and therefore nobody will hesitate. Nobody will hold back from redeeming the Eved just because he's going back to work. So bottom line, Abaye learns the Mishnah is before the owner was miyayish. So legally the Eved is still owned by him. Tanakama says, if the Poida had in mind Lishum Eved, okay, goes back to the first owner. Straightforward. But if he had Ben Chayrin in mind, he wanted to let him go, to set him free, then we don't require that he goes back to the first owner, because we want to encourage people to redeem Avodah. Rabban Shimon Ben Gamliel disagrees. People will do it anyways, and therefore there's nothing holding him back from going back to the first Adon. That's Abaye. Rava Amar L'Olam L'Achayush. The Mishnah is speaking where the owner had given up all hopes to retrieve that Eved. And the Mishnah is explained like this. So when the fellow came along and redeemed him and was poidim, Ulushum Eved, if his intention was that the Eved goes back to work, who's he going to go work for? Not the first owner. He was already miyayish. He gave up all hope on the Eved. Yishtabed l'Rabbi Sheni. Oh, going to Rava. When the Mishnah says Yishtabed, it means to the new owner, the fellow who redeemed him, who assumes ownership on the Eved by redeeming him. L'shum ben chayrin. But if his intention was ben chayrin to let him free, lo Yishtabed, lo l'Rabbi Rishon, v'lo l'Rabbi Sheni. In this case, he goes totally free, not to the first owner, nor to the second owner. Lo Rabbi Sheni loy. He doesn't work for the second owner. Lo l'shum ben chayrin parki, because of course he redeemed him to set him free. Lo Rabbi Rishon loy. Nor does it go back to the first master. Do lacha yush have it, because we're speaking after the yush. Of course he gave up, and he gave him up, and he lost him. Rabban Shimon Ben Gamliel Omer benkach yishtabit. Whether the redeemer intended on putting him to work or setting him free, either way he goes to work. Who does he work for? The new owner, the one who redeems him. Sorry, Rashi says to the old owner. Why? Kidecheskel. In line with Cheskel. Damar Cheskel. Milipnei ma. Amru benkach benkach yishtabit. Why do we say that? Irrespective of the intention of the redeemer, the Eved always goes back to the first owner. That's Rashi's pshat. You know why? To discourage this type of behavior. Lest any Eved who's uncomfortable, unhappy with his master, just picks himself up and submits himself to the gayases, to the troops, to the armies and bandits, and allows himself to be captured just to get away from his from his owner. To free himself from the hold of his master. So to discourage this type of behavior, we say, you run away, you go back to the owner. Okay, so bottom line, we have two approaches to the Mishnah. By his approach, an Eved who was Nishba and redeemed was speaking prior to Yush. The first owner never gave up hope, never gave up his rights, never gave up his ownership. Tanakama says, okay, you go and redeem it. Lishum Eved. He goes back to Rabbi Rishon. Lishum ben Chayrin. He totally goes free. He doesn't go to the second guy because he doesn't want him. He doesn't go to the, at least he didn't want him when he redeemed him. It was Lishum ben Chayrin. He doesn't go back to the first owner because otherwise people will hesitate to redeem Avodah. That's the Tanakam. Rabbi Shimon Ben Gamliel says, no, even though he redeemed him to set him free, It doesn't matter. Go back to the owner. It's before Yush. Don't worry, people will still do pidyon, even though he's an Eved and going back to work. The mitzvah to be paid avodah. That's Abaye's approach before Yush. Rabbi says we're speaking that the original owner gave up any hopes of retrieving his Eved. Okay, so now Tanakama says if he was redeemed l'shum avdus for the sake of working, goes to the new owner who now acquired him by redeeming him. If the kavanah was l'shum ben chayrin, and he's free to go. Why? Because the new fellow redeemed him to set him free. And the first owner, well, he gave up on him. He was miyayish. According to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he goes back to the first owner. Either way, because of Chizkiah, to discourage this type of behavior, discourage escapees. Okay, Meisve. Here comes a kash. Omerlan Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So he turns to the Chachamim and he says, "Kashem shemitzvah lifteis b'nei chayr." You know, just like there's a mitzvah to redeem an ordinary citizen from the captives, kach mitzvah lifteis avod. Same mitzvah applies to avod. So that was his argument to the Tanakam. Let the Eved go work. Don't worry about people being discouraged from redeeming. Everybody knows, just like it's important to redeem a regular Yisrael, likewise an Eved. Okay, so Bishlam ila Abaye. So this works well according to Abaye's approach. The first approach in the Gemara, Damar lefnei Yush, that was speaking prior to the owner being Miyayish, and right, that whole first track we had in the Gemara. And the Shita of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is, well, irrespective of the intention of the Redeemer, the Eved goes back to work because of this Svara. Hainu Dukamar Keshem. So that's perfectly matching with his words over here. Keshem, just like it's a mitzvah to redeem him, to redeem him, let him go back and work. Elul Rava da Amar la'achar Yush. But according to Rava's second approach, we're speaking after Yush already took effect, and you know the whole discussion we had in Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's approach is, well, whatever it is, he goes back to work because of Chizkiah. Right? Chizkiah's concern was that every Eved will just go and avail himself to the captors just to get him off the hook. Right? To stop working. So, why does Rabbi Shimon Gamliel employ the argument of Kishem, just like it's a mitzvah to redeem him, it's a mitzvah to redeem him? That's totally irrelevant. Mishum de Chizkiyahu. According to Rava, the reason is based on Chizkiah's concern. So why does he use different words? Why does he present a different argument? So Rava responds, you know what? Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure what the Rabbanan were presenting as their opinion. And therefore he responded to them in kind. He sort of addressed both possibilities. If you're discussing a case which is prior to Yush, Hainu Kashem. In that case, the fitting response is Kashem. And again, the point is, I hold that the Eved goes back to the master and continues working, and just like people are eager to redeem Ben Yisrael, they'll redeem an Eved as well, even though he's back to work. That's if we're speaking under those circumstances. Ila achar yush kam risu. However, if you're speaking after Yush already took place, in which case, really, if the Redeemer wants him free, he should go free. And the answer is no, Kedechizkiah, because of that concern that the Eved might actually facilitate his capture. So basically, Rava learns our Mishnah one way, but in the Brisa, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was unsure as to what the Tanakama had in mind, and therefore he addressed them on both accounts. Now, Ulu Damal Achayish, Ulu Rabbi Sheni. The way Rava learns our Mishnah, the original owner gave up on him. And according to Tanakama, if you redeem him l'shem Eved, right, with the intention of having him put back to work, right? Who does he work for? The new master, the new guy who redeemed him. Question is, how did he acquire him? Sheni, miman kanile. How did the Sheni buy him? What did he buy him from? Why is he working for the Sheni? Mishav boy, from the captor. Question, Shaboy gufe mi kanile. Since when does a captor own his captive? Answer, yes, kanile lemasi yadav. When the Goyish captor captures the Eved, he's kind of him somewhat. That he's compelled to work for him. So now when the Yisrael buys him back, so to speak, gets him from the captor, he acquires that right to make him work. How do we know this fact that a guy can buy another guy and compel him to work for him? He can't actually, own him as a person, but he can own the rights to enslave him, to work with him. Shenamar v'gam b'bnei hatoshavim hagar v'machem mehem tiknu. So the pasuk enables the Yisraelim to purchase avodim from amongst the goyim that's around them. Atem koinim mehem, so you can purchase from them. V'loiheim koinim mikem, but a guy has no power to acquire a Yisrael. V'loiheim koinim zeh mizeh. Likewise, they have no power to acquire each other as a slave. Loch yachol lo yiknu zeh zeh. The Brisa continues, so perhaps they cannot be koine each other. Stop. What do you mean yachol? Lo yiknu zeh zeh. Ha'amros lo yehem koinim zeh zeh. You just told me they can't. What do you mean? Perhaps they can. They can't. It's true. Hachigamra. The Brisa means like this: V'lo yehem koinim zeh mizeh legufa. That when the Brisa meant, that the guy has no power to acquire another guy legufai. Means to say that the actual guy doesn't belong to him. Rashi says, meaning if he wants to set him free, he doesn't have to give him a get shichra shtar. He has a right to sort of make him work, but he doesn't actually own the person. Or let's say the slave would run away from the guy master and become a ger. That's a legitimate gerus. Rashi says, "Ein gufay kana lechaveri." The Torah does not empower a guy to own another guy. Fine. Yachol lo yiknu zeh lemasa yodav. So since they can't actually acquire each other's guf, what about masa yodayim? Perhaps that, not either. A guy can't acquire another guy as a slave to work for him. Even a limited ownership doesn't apply to a guy. So that will be the proposal, the suggestion. The answer is Amras. The response is like this: Kavachim. We make a kavachim to disprove this notion. Yisrael. Even a guy could be kind of a yid for the sake of masya daim. The yid is not compelled to work for him, even though the yid actually doesn't belong to the guy. How do we know this could happen? Rashi brings the pasuk, we have a concept of a guy actually purchasing a Yisrael as an Eved. So the Yisrael remains, a regular Yisrael. It doesn't change his status. It doesn't change his kedusha, but he's compelled to work for the guy. So if a guy can do that to a Yisrael, certainly Eved Kechavim, a guy regarding his fellow guy, Lakoshken, of course. Doesn't it lend to reason that he can do that for his fellow guy? So, although we have proven that only a Yisrael, in terms of guf, only Yisrael could own the guy, but in terms of Masya Daim, just like a guy could own a Yisrael for the sake of Masya Daim, and the Yisrael is committed to work for him, certainly he can do so by his fellow guy. Okay? So that pretty much answers our question. You go and you paida an evet from a guy. The guy did have some sort of hold, some sort of ownership, a limited ownership, masya daim ownership. But that could be transferred back to the Yisrael who redeems him, and now the Yisrael has a right to make him work. Asks the Gemara, okay, that's if you actually bought and sold him. Perhaps This only works if you exchange, there's some sort of monetary exchange. Right? Because remember, the precedent here is, how do we know that a guy could be kind of his fellow guy because a guy could be kind of Yisrael? Well, that only works with money. Rashi brings psukim, mekasa meknasai, so perhaps only that method can work. But suppose he just does chazaka. He just forcibly enslaves him like the captor, or just enslaving his captive against his will. That's chazaka, an expression of ownership. Right? So who says that works? Amra Papa, it does work. And we have a precedent in history that acquisition through chazaka works by a guy. Ammon Umayyav. Look, the territories belonging to Ammon and Umayyav, which were pretty much off limits, totally off limits for Klal Yisrael. They were warned against instigating warfare with these nations. But what happened later when Sichain overran those territories? He acquired them through chazaka, through ownership, through exercising ownership. Tiyaru b'sichain, they became purified, so to speak. They were revamped by Sichain running them over. So we see that the concept of chazaka is applicable even to a guy. And just like it works by karka, it works by the eved as well. Asks the Gemara, Ashkechan Eved Gechav. So we've had precedent for chazaka being an effective method of acquisition when it's a guy versus another guy. Eved Gechavim Yisrael Manalim. What about in a case where a Eved Gechavim attempts to acquire a Yisrael, such as like an Eved who's sort of a semi-Yisrael, and he goes and acquires him without paying for him. He just takes him to captivity. That's a chazaka, exercising ownership. Who said that works minolam? The answer is the chsiv vayish mimenu shevi. The pasuk tells us that the guy captured, right, the Knani Melech Arad, he captured from Yisrael vayish bimenu, and we call him a shevi, a captive. He's relabeled. And Rashi says, the Karle Shevi Didei, since the Torah considers it it's his captive. Shema Mino Kani B'Chazaka, apparently Chazaka is a form of acquisition, even if it's a guy acquiring a Yisrael. So here in the Mishnah, the Eved was captured, the guy sort of took hold of him. Okay, limited ownership for Masiyah dying purposes. Now the Yisrael redeems him, he has a right to have that ownership sort of transferred to him, and now he can enslave that Eved. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We discussed the meaning of the word prosbul. It's a takana for the wealthy and the poor. We discussed prosbul requires karka to be owned by the loiva or the arev, or at least somebody that owes money to the loiva should have karka. And again, this is needed because chachamim's takanas are typically relating to common day events, common day occurrences. And karka is typically, a required element in terms of bali chayv, who want to have something to rely on, back up on. So that's a milsa de shchicha, and that's why it's a precondition for prosbul. We can actually give him karka if he doesn't have. What about a el milva b'mashkoin? He already has it in his hands. Shemitah does not affect that. What about a shtar? Right, a milva b'shtar with achrayis nechasim. It's also pretty solid foothold on the other person's assets. We have machlekes between the Amoraim on that. We learned that come Shemitah, the malva should sort of forego, but the Levi should insist on him taking it. We had a couple of stories about that. And machlekes Tanaim, whether the Baal Chayv can claim that he made a prosbul even though he can't produce it. The svara would be, well, it's so easy to do it, why would he not do it? Then we had the Mishnah about an Eved taken into captivity, redeemed. Machlekes Tanakama and Rav Shimon Gamliel had two approaches on how to learn the Mishnah, Abaye and Rava as well. And then we went into the sugya, citing the sources of different facets of ownership. A guy can own a yid in a limited fashion, Masiyah Daim, likewise a guy to a guy, but nothing matches up to the Yisrael's ownership of the guy, which is a proper ownership, a full ownership, ligufay. All the best to you. Hatzlacha Rabbah.